Wish I gave a countdown. YouTube, get your shit together. Oh, now we're live. All right, cool. Live in the studio, we've got Bryce Schmidt, Zach Scott, Wisconsin, backcountry hunters and anglers.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We're here.
We worked out this morning. Some of us worked, some of us worked out. And then, but I was thinking about that. I'm way too fucking loud. I was thinking about that on the way over here. The conversation you and I had, Bryce, about fitness, like your ideas if you've taken time off of it, want to get back into it, and then kind of how that relates to the R3 movement as well. So we'll get to that eventually. But, gentlemen, thanks for coming to the studio. Thanks for going to Ruby Coffee with me. Zach, thanks for paying for Ruby Coffee for all of us. Yeah. You didn't need to do that. You're a good man.
That's the least I could do.
There we go. Let's start
with... Free training session, so like I said.
So let's do, we'll go intros, who you are, what you do for fun, where you're from, what you do for work. Let's dive there. We'll start there.
Well, it all started Zach Scott, Wisconsin BHA board. I work for the United States Geological Survey. That's my day gig, so I stand in rivers. I'm a river rat.
I can relate to that.
Yeah. When I figured out somebody would pay me to do that.
You got it figured out, man.
Game, set, match, right? So, yeah, that's my day gig. Stand around in flooded waters, yucky waters, all the waters. Do some water science. But, yeah, I've been with BHA for, is it 4 years we've been a chapter about? Been there since the beginning. Beginnings, man. Hunting and fishing, man, has always been a part of my life, I guess. As a kid, from the beginning. My dad owns a sporting goods store, so I was kind of indoctrinated into it. I didn't really have an option. So from the beginning, bow hunting and fishing, and definitely more fishing than archery stuff. My dad had a habit of selling my bows out from under me because he owned a sporting goods store. So, of course, anytime a kid would walk into the store, and they'd have a parent like, I'm looking to get my son a bow, we'd be like, I happen to have one right here ready to rock. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So a lot of it growing up, then got to high school, got interested in girls, started playing music in a band. Kind of left the hunting and stuff aside for the college years. I really kind of walked away from it. Always kind of did some fishing and stuff like that. And it was actually Bryce who rustled me back into it. He ended up getting into, we fished a little bit together, quite a bit. Well, Bryce and I went to high school together.
Okay.
We went to all the schools.
We went to all the schools together. We had lockers next to each other, Scott Schmidt. So we fished and stuff. But then Bryce we were both into mountain biking.
Yep.
So that's where we were kind of hanging out doing that. And I remember you got a bow, and he wanted to shoot archery league at my dad's shop. And I said, well, if you can talk my dad into getting me set up with a bow, I'll be your partner. And
that he won't sell.
That he won't sell. I made sure to take it home with me. And, of course, my dad I've always been way too lucky when it comes to gear and stuff like that. I never had to do anything for any of it. So, and I always had top-of-line stuff. So my dad hooked me up with a bow, and after walking away from archery for like 10 years, it was like, as soon as you let that first arrow fly, it was like, oh no, back, just hook, line, and sinker. Yep. So I kind of owe it to Bryce to get me back into it, but and then BHA happened, and here we are.
For yourself, we'll go over to Bryce because I'll get down the rabbit hole if I start asking questions now. So Bryce,
yo,
who are you? Where are you from? Well, we know that you've known Zach forever. The two of you have known each other forever.
I think...
Pull that mic closer.
Sorry. The first time
there it is.
I really hung out with Zach he was introducing me to his wolf and coyote at his house when we were 6 years old. So that's really where it all began. But Bryce Schmidt, board member for Wisconsin. My day job is I am a specialist mechanic at Trek Bicycles and work on rich people's toys. Nice. And do the majority of the production for one shop. And then other than that, anytime I'm not at work, you can find me in a woods or on a stream, and love shooting bow.
Hell yeah. I like it. So Zach mentioned how he had a break from hunting, outdoor life kind of thing. I had something similar where kind of I didn't like the energy behind the hunting group that I grew up into, and that kind of pushed me away. Did you have anything similar for yourself?
So my father and his father used to hunt basically all archery, all recurve when they were growing up. And then my dad got shot at on some public land.
Oh, shit.
And it kind of really soured him. So when I became 12, I actually took hunter safety with my mom.
Okay.
And then got into gun hunting just for deer with my grandfather, and did that for a handful of years. And then same thing, went to college and like forgot all about it. And then started hanging out with another buddy that worked at Gander Mountain. That's who got me to purchase that bow, which led me into getting Zach back into the sport as well.
Nice. Badass. I like it. Archery hunting for the two of you then, is that the main form
Yeah.
of hunting for the two of you?
Mm-hmm.
Archery. Okay. And then fishing, where does that fit in? Both physically, mentally, from a wellness standpoint?
I would say, so got into fly fishing because of you and Ben, our other friend. But basically fly fish everything at this point. I rarely touch a spinning rod, and it's all therapeutic for me, and just getting out on the stream, whether it's 100 yards off the Highway 14 or whether it's 20 miles back. I mean, it's all the same to me. Just the sound of the water and the casting of the fly line is really where it's at.
Mm-hmm. So you both were very patient, not particularly good at coaching fly fishing when we were at the rendezvous last year. But I mean, you were both super patient with me, considering I had never gone before. And now that I dabbled a little bit last year, and I was like, oh, this makes way more sense when you're actually doing it, even when you're doing it wrong. Hannah, funny enough, so Hannah that was teaching there, she's actually the other BHA winner that went up to grouse camp.
Yep.
So that was funny. So got to pick her brain a little bit more when we were up there. But the fly fishing part of it, like when I showed up late, was just casting at the ground. I'm like, this is dumb. And then you guys were like, just do this. I'm like, it didn't make any sense. My brain coming from a very analytical kinesiology, human movement standpoint.
Right.
So Hannah was better able to help me out with that, because you guys are definitely much more the existential, like the energy of fly fishing.
Yeah.
And so I just always, every time I fly fish, I think of that, and both you guys just being like, you just gotta do this. No, do less. Do more.
You just gotta feel it,
Yes.
like you'll know once you have it. You'll feel
and
it.
I'm like, no, I won't. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So yeah, I appreciated it more once Dean the Machine got me out on some panfish, which
Perfect.
Yeah, that was perfect. Just every other cast you're catching them, and
It's so fun.
way more enjoyable. I'm looking forward to Trevor, who I've had on. He's going to be getting me out this spring for some local fly fishing, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and that was the main thing for me is like growing up, we did so much spin fishing for trout that after a certain point of like you do it for 10 years, you're not really you're just like a ninja at it.
Yeah.
You can hit every pocket water with a spinning rod, and you're just like, it almost got to the point where people were like catching fish for numbers.
Yeah.
So the fly fishing thing for me was definitely like a slow down and enjoy what you're doing. And I found that like this time of year, as Bryce knows, he got in my truck and he's like, there's a brand new fly rod. I'm like, all of a sudden like January hits and it's like, that's all my brain goes to. It's like all I think about. And I found that it plays so well with bow hunting for me. I like shooting guns and stuff, and I like going out pheasant hunting with buddies who do it and stuff, but it's really just like a 1 or 2 time a year get out and do it thing. For me, like the archery thing and the fishing thing play so well together, because you got the bow hunting, which is like you got to practice year round. You got to try and be as proficient as you possibly can, but then the thing is so different. You're waking up 2 hours before light up.
Yep.
You're sitting still, you're worrying about scent, you're doing all the stuff that you need to do to be successful. Fly fishing, you're sleeping in, waking up, having bacon and eggs, you're cracking a bridge beer, you're spending time with your friends, walking around. It doesn't matter if you catch 1 fish, 0 fish, 10 fish. It's just like you're just having a good time.
It's heaven.
So those two things it's kind of like my yin and yang, I guess.
I think like the fly fishing is like the bow of the fishing world, right? Because you have to know more about the species, you have to know weather conditions, and you have to play more towards the animal than you would with a gun or a spinning rod. And I think that's what really like draws me to those two disciplines as well.
I like it. So, God damn it. there's two places I want to go right now. One of them we'll tackle is what drew each of you, I guess, individually to BHA. Like, what are you championing? Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So what are you pushing for in the next couple of years, be it with committees or events or at an organizational level for BHA? But then what I really want to also important conversation or a question I have is going back to the fitness talk you and I had. So Bryce had an injury a decade ago, you were saying?
About a decade, yeah.
And you kind of fell away from exercise or athletic training because of the injury. You're an active person. You're like, from what you do for a living to what you do like for your free time being outdoors. You understand and appreciate movement and being active. But there was some apprehension going into today's workout because of what you're exposed to through social media, high intensity CrossFit games athletes. And I'm sure just because you're not the first person to say this to me, they get intimidated because of me or some online persona they might perceive. Mm-hmm. Like, this is what this guy does for a living. He's a coach. He looks a certain way physically. So obviously I'm gonna come in here and he's gonna kick my ass.
Right.
And there's definitely like a time and a place for that, but for the vast majority of people, that's not what I'm interested in doing. Especially, I want to get to know you. So Zach came in, he's like, I've got bum shoulders. So right away I was like, well, these are what we did, a warm-up, and the warm-up was really my way of assessing his and Chris's movement patterns. I'm like, well, this is what we're going to throw in today to help work on his shoulders, because he's an active person. He likes to fly fish, which is an overhead rotational sport. He loves archery, which is also rotation, anti-rotation, a lot to do with the upper back. So what are some things I can incorporate into today's workout to help improve those things, right? Mm-hmm. So for someone like yourself, like learning that you broke your leg, you had this injury, the workouts, and you haven't, structurally worked out for 10 years, it'd be really easy to like bury you, right?
Oh, yeah.
That I'm not, and I don't, and I could do that with anyone. I could do that with the D1 athletes I work with. That's not hard. What I want to do is get to know you as a person, understand why it is you want to exercise and move, and then give you the minimum effective dose. Like, I want you to have fun, get to that point where you're like pushing yourself, it's mildly getting uncomfortable, but it's doable. Because if it's way over outside of your comfort zone or past that threshold, you're not going to want to come back to it, because every one of your fears has been realized. You feel like shit. You're like, well, I suck. I can't do this. And where I'm coming to this conversation is that same idea, I think, is what holds back like the R3 movement for hunting. So you guys are talking about fly fishing, and it is super challenging, right? If you don't know, if like you talked about the species, if you don't know how to do it, it's super daunting. Same with archery. I think hunting as a whole right now is, you've got people like Joe Rogan, Cameron Haynes, like these crazy intense workouts. You got to go backcountry bow hunting for elk. Like, anything else is fucking bullshit. Like, that's not it. That's not hunting. Like, that is a form of hunting.
That is a form of hunting.
And it's been...
But the's also dudes with big guts that shoot elk every single year.
Then, so then there's the flip of that, exactly, where people see, so they see like crazy backcountry, you need to be running 100 miles, doing these crazy intense workouts, shooting your bow every day, like that's hunting. Or it's the Midwest stereotypical, I'm sitting in my tree stand that's been here for 20 plus years, we're drinking beers all night,
right,
and then going out. So I guess where I'm coming back to all this is like the perception of fitness. I try to realize, like, it's not about my fitness or where I'm at right now, or do I have to prove something to this person by burying them, or it's got to be embrace the suck or get out of your comfort zone. It's like, no, we're doing this so you can be better at all the shit you love doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with the changing of times, both as like coaches I've had that would just bury you every practice and that sort of thing, where as opposed to like your type of coaching where you're going to do, it's almost like a microdose, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to be able to do this over and over again, but you're going to benefit every single time from it. Yep. But that's the same with like mentors 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, and we've all known people that are, guilty of this, and like take somebody else out and like terrible weather or like put them in an awful situation. I mean, even today you'll see like people that take their kids out, like Brian took out his kids ice fishing the other day. He has snacks, he has games for them to play. They did very little fishing, but those kids all left with like, I went ice fishing. They're going to tell their friends that they were ice fishing. They had an awesome time, and guess what? Next year they're going to want to go again.
Yep.
But we didn't have that when we were growing up. If you complained about being cold to your dad or your grandpa, like, you're never getting asked to go again.
Yeah.
But like same with coaching though. Like I'm saying, like times are changing, and I think that's really beneficial to retain and get more people to come out and enjoy the outdoors as well.
Definitely. So yeah, on the car ride over to the coffee shop, I was thinking about R3, you know, our conversation with fitness, hunting, and then even the duck boat I'm rebuilding right now. So it's a plywood skiff built back in 1935. The guy that gifted it to me, his uncle built that 1935. He was big time outdoorsman, duck hunter, just loved being outside. And then through the years, it's, you know, got used less, and then eventually ended up in my driveway, half rotted because it had been stored upside down because no one had really cared about it. And now I'm rebuilding it. I know next to shit about woodworking or I don't know anything about boats. I get like the terms on a boat mixed up every time. But I found a mentor, coach, whatever you want to call it, Dave, out in Nelsonville, and he's woodworked his whole life. Like he grew up in it. He's been around the good and the bad. He's a very cerebral person by nature, and I'm in, you know, the workshop that he put up in an old barn. He rebuilt the lower level of this old barn for woodworking specifically. It's got all the power tools, everything you need, and then his leadership. It would be super easy for me to walk in there and him to overwhelm me, just shotgun blast me in the face with everything I need to do on this boat. He just looks at it, breaks it down, and then gives me like 2-3 options. What do you want to work on today? Go do that.
Yep.
Like, he makes it approachable. It's fun. He's not reminding me of how little I know.
Right.
And that's been something I've been thinking about because I'm meeting with Peggy Farrell and the Becoming an Outdoors Women crew coming up here in a couple of weeks to do a mentorship class to lead a spring turkey hunt. I'm not at a place mentally where I want to give up fall hunting.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. So, but I'm like, spring turkey hunt, hell yeah. I love, if I can get out early to go turkey hunting, yes. Even if, you know, I'm not hunting or anything, but yeah, so those are just like ideas I've been having lately with the whole R3 thing. Zach, get in there. You haven't had a chance yet.
So yeah, an R3.
Yeah.
Man, well, that you bring up the turkey hunt thing, that's fantastic because that's one of our big thing that's really kicked off this year is our Learn to Bow Hunt through BHA and the Learn to Turkey Hunt, and people just love it because they get that experience, especially our Learn to Bow Hunt, because I mean they get to go to how long is the class? 6 weeks? 4 weeks?
6 weeks, I believe. And
I mean they're learning everything from how to shoot the bows, how to sight in the bows, elevated shooting, everything that you need to know, tree stand safety, and then on top of that you get taken out with somebody who has experience, who doesn't have an ego, and tries to make it be as successful as possible. And what we've really tried to focus is even after that class, I think we just had the other night, they had like a get together of those people again, all the people who have taken the class to come back in to stay in the loop, because it'd be real easy again to just finish that class, try it once, now you're off on your own.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we know that retention part, right?
Yeah. Well, it's super difficult to continue that because we're like, hey, even if you're successful in the hunt, right? Or let's say you come in, you have a great workout that one time.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, all right, see you later. Like, there's no guidance. There's no guidance after. You know, you were brought to, because do they do most of that on private land, private property? Most of those.
Yeah, they do most of it on private property. Yeah.
So it's like,
yep,
because you almost have to, right? Like there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
You can't in 4 to 6 weeks, you can't begin to have the conversation on, not only am I going to show you how to use this bow,
yeah,
and then shoot something, but now we got to start looking at how do we go into a public land parcel and figure out where the hell the animals are and how you're going to get set up.
So that actually is part of the course too, though.
Yeah.
They spend almost the whole day. They brought in Brian, and he
Yeah.
basically goes through things like Onyx and just looking at Google and like aerial imagery just for trying to like look out and how to plan, how to hunt public lands like that. So they do touch on that stuff. Yeah. The private land aspect is really just like kind of like a comfort thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To kind of lay it out in a nice scenario where the blinds are already up and we kind of have an idea of what could possibly happen. It doesn't mean they're going to be successful. There's been plenty that aren't successful, but plenty that have been, and it's definitely changed some people. And the type of people that we're getting to go out for the classes is exactly what we want to see. It's a mix of ages, races, sexes. It's like everything we want.
Perfect.
Yeah.
TJ was telling me there was a state grant for that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
10,000 was that?
Yeah,
what he-
I believe so. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's awesome to see, though. But I'm sure, especially Wisconsin, what is it? It's nationwide, less than 4% of people hunt, something like that. But I know in Wisconsin, it's definitely higher,
little bit
consistently higher than that. But I'm sure if they see the trend where license sales are going down, they're going to want to, here's 10,000 because we make way
for sure.
more than that
Yeah.
come hunting season.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and it seems like the majority of people are coming to it from a food aspect, which is really refreshing to see too. Because not only do they just want to get into the sport to have something to do, they're looking at that end product and they want to know more. How do I cook it? How do I clean it? How do I do everything with it?
There's, my friend Trevor, the fly fishing one, he did for his dietetics program, his capstone project was a venison workshop through becoming an outdoorswoman. And the 20-some people that came, I was fortunate enough to be able to help out with it, but there were the people that showed up was like crazy, like the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Where people that had hunted for a long time, or someone in their family hunted, they brought the deer home, and then they might have helped cut up the meat, cut up the deer. Or it was people who went deer hunt. They or someone in their family went deer hunting, but then they just brought the deer to a processor, and all they got back were snack sticks.
Yeah,
Maybe
snack
steaks,
sticks, yeah.
steaks and snack sticks.
Or turn it all into burger.
And then the menu we had was like bone marrow salad. We made chili, we made a stew, and we made, I think there were steaks. Or a roast. I think it was a roast. So we did all these things, and people were like, you can eat deer that way?
The light bulb.
Yeah. So that totally blew my mind from, and this kind of goes full circle, is my background, and we've always cooked like my grandma was like meticulous. Everything got used. Not everything, because now that I just had a conversation with my friend Ann Vang. She's generation 1.5. Her family's from Laos, and they save everything. Like they're cleaning out the intestines and the stomach. It can all get used. And I'm like, fuck, so wasteful.
Yeah.
So it's always good to have perspective. But yeah, coming back to the different groups of people that are being drawn in, that's really the important part of it. If we're going to keep it going, not just white male.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll be losing the game pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So we can definitely come back to R3, but Zach, so what specifically drew you to BHA, either at the state level or just as a nationwide program?
Yeah.
What does that look like for you?
For me, it really stemmed back to my dad. He was always a member of DU, and he was really active in the local chapter of DU. So as a kid, I was going with him to all the DU banquets, doing the DU raffles and 3-gun raffles and selling the tickets, and I love doing stuff in the outdoors, but I had never felt a feeling so refreshing as being in a giant room full of that many people. I think of it like, you go to the mall, you got to pick something up, and the whole time you're like, there's too many people here. I don't know what that dude's doing over there. It's just, the floor's sticky. It's just there's too much going on. We all like being in the outdoors for a reason. It's peace and quiet, right? But you can put me in a room jam-packed full of people that like to hunt and fish, and my God, is it refreshing to be able to strike up a conversation with an absolute stranger, and within 30 seconds, you're swapping recipes, you're telling stories, you should check this spot out over here, it's great. It's just great. So I always had this like I wanted to be part of something. Like I wanted to be part of an organization. But I'm kind of like I'm not like so into one thing that I was like, I've never been really drawn to DU. I always thought TU was cool, but it's so like specific to Trout Unlimited. And even getting in that, like the entry level, you feel like you're that goofy person walking into a CrossFit gym.
Yep.
You know, at something like TU. You know, there's fly rods and which weights and which lengths and what weight line, and you got nymphs, you've got streamers, you've got bobbins. People are talking about marabou and tying stuff right off the bat, and you're like, whoa. So it was always just like, I wanted to be a part of something, but it wasn't, everything was so specific. And then I heard about BHA on the Meat Eater podcast. He said like, Michigan's getting a chapter, it's breaking out big, it's coming in the Midwest. And I looked into BHA and I was like, well, that's my thing, man. It's like, I love being outside. Private, public, whatever. I like being outside, and I like that all this stuff is set aside for me. And the same thing as that light bulb thing. It's like you own it. It's yours. And I remember being like, wow, how did I not know? Like, how did I not think of it that way? And we go to these conventions and stuff, and we tell people that's our what do they call it? Your bench speech, or your stand up on your podium speech? You know, that's kind of like their soapbox. That's like kind of right off the bat. That's what we hit people with. And either people are like, meh, whatever, or that light bulb clicks. And I was like, well, BHA is for me, you know? So that's really how it started for me. I reached out to them, sent them an email. They were looking for people who were interested in being on part of the board in the state. And it was really like, are you willing to commit this much time? And I was like, you know, I am. I'm willing to set aside this much time to do this thing. And it was mainly because of the public land thing, but also just what it stood for, and the fact that we get to work with all these other groups too. Like we're not fighting with TU, we're not fighting with DU. Like we all want to work together. It's the greatest cause, you know. Yep. So that's really what it was for me, for sure. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Bryce.
Hey. So yeah, Zach got into it, and then he started telling me about it, and I thought it was interesting. And we're both busy guys, so anytime I get to hang out with Zach and go volunteer and watch some fly fishing videos or deer films about archery, I was like, sweet. And then just, you know, hanging out afterwards at the bar with the rest of the board members, and I'm kind of an opinionated person and telling them what I thought should happen. And so pretty soon I find myself on the board, and they're like, all right, go do it now. So yeah, I just kind of fell into it, and it's like Zach was saying, it's really important to me that other people have access to the outdoors, and that they get to share in what I think is one of our most valuable resources.
Tell me more about Goose Lake. You blast it all the time on social media. It's work days. How long have you been hunting there? What do you hunt there? What are your favorite memories? And then if you could just punch in all your spots on Onyx on my phone, that'd be great.
I will definitely share them with you. I have a bunch. So let's see here. I've been hiking there for probably 5-ish years now. It's a big area just south of the interstate, right east of Madison before you get to Lake Mills. Depending on whose measurement you go by, it's a little over 1,700 acres, 7 different parking lots. We adopted it 2 years ago, and we do work days there. We have one coming up most likely on March 14th. We'll blast that out as well.
Plug that on the podcast.
Perfect. And yeah, we're just trying to do things there to help out the DNR. So getting rid of a tree line to connect to prairies, parking lot maintenance. We have a trash can program going on right now that I empty every single week, and got rid of some oak wilt last year as well.
Nice.
Yep. It's been fun.
Awesome. What do you hunt there?
Oh, so I hunt deer there, pheasant, rabbit, dove. I think that's all.
Do they have the stocked fields for dove, or is this just?
They have sunflower fields. Yep. I don't know that they're stocked.
Well, I meant.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry,
but yeah, they're definitely stocking roosters there too. So
that's so. I love chasing pheasants in Wisconsin because I don't have to drive out west, even though I want to do a western hunt this year or next with Django. But it's like there's obviously the stocked factor of it, and the Wisconsin conversation with pheasants and prairie chickens like fascinates me because I love digging more into it and I had this conversation. I talked to a few people who I know do quite a bit of upland hunting. You know, they love pheasant hunting. But you bring up prairie chickens and right away they get super defensive.
Right.
Or they're like, well, we can't have that. You know, they need large tracts of certain habitat, blah, 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 for it to happen. Or pheasants don't affect prairie chicken nesting sites, even though everything I've read from like actual people who specialize are like, yeah, they do. Which is why you don't see them stocked around here because of the existing prairie chicken populations in like the Buena Vista and out in the Paul Olson. So I was just curious if you guys have any thoughts or opinions. You said you're an opinionated guy.
I am. Unfortunately, I don't have one on that.
That is just from someone who, you know, and this is like the last year or so, just from having an upland dog and kind of digging more into it. Like, we have this population of prairie chickens in the state, and prairie chickens, like worldwide, not worldwide, but nationwide, are decreasing in a lot of areas. And it just surprises me that there's not a bigger conversation happening. Like, let's bring these back so we can hunt them. You know, the prairie.
Right.
There's not like a Prairie Chicken United or a
right.
Prairie Chicken Unlimited. Maybe I need to start. Maybe that's what I need to do.
There you go.
Because I talk to people and they're like, well, those are farm fields. But if you go out to those farm fields, you're like, this is the farming that's like shouldn't be happening anymore.
Right.
Like, you go to a lot of these places and you're like, this is where water, like shit's getting dumped into the water, as Zach I'm sure knows. The soil quality.
That doesn't happen here, does it?
Never in Wisconsin. It doesn't happen. But like the soil quality itself isn't optimal for what's happening. They're bringing in all this shit. It goes into the water. I go out there, the ditch is out there. I'm like, I don't ever want to go anywhere near that water. But and then you have this conversation. It's like, well, those are farm fields. Farmer owns those. I'm like, I bet if you offered the farmer like a decent amount of money, they'd take it. They'd be like, yes, I don't want this anymore. I'm going to go do something else. But we're stuck in here because that's what we've created for farmers, is like, you have to keep farming. There's no way out. You were born into this, and now you have to farm. And so for a lot of farmers, there's like no way out of it, even though most of that land would be better if it was allowed to go fallow and allowed to carry on its historical capacity. So
right. Well, I mean, we shouldn't go down this hole, but it's a loaded issue, right? With all the subsidies and everything,
exactly.
And like getting paid to grow this and not grow that, and blah blah blah. So
yeah, we don't have to go too much into the farming aspect. But as someone, and I know very little. I'm admitting right now I know very little about all of it. But just everything I'm reading, and I'm out in those areas quite often, and just from like what I'm seeing, what I'm reading, people I talk to on both sides, like I know some of the business owners that own the farm fields out there. Like, I struggle to call it farming because then I know local farmers who are actually on their soil every day and care about the actual biomass, the soil itself, the water quality. So I struggle to lump them into the same group. And I'll admit right away, I don't know like a ton about all of it, but just someone who's interested in these things and learning more, it's an interesting conversation to be had. Because I'd like to see prairie chickens all over the place. Like, I think they're a cool bird. And I would rather Wisconsin had more of those, and people who probably work for Pheasants Forever are gonna hate me or whatever, but I would rather hunt those than stocked pheasants.
An invasive species.
And Zach's over here.
But that makes me think of two things. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like the spin fishers versus the fly fishers kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the way I think of it. Because like even down around us, nobody really talks about prairie chickens.
Yeah.
It's almost completely stocked for pheasants. So I know there's like there's like kind of that give and take between those two relationships. But the other thing it makes me think of is just how often, like all I could think about when you were saying that is how often hunters shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
You know, with the infighting.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a trad archer.
Yeah.
I'm a compound archer. Crossbows, which you can't talk about. You know, all these different, you know, that just makes me laugh.
Yeah. Because I've tried to talk to people that have been upland hunting for much longer than I have. Or are, you know, they talk about conservation and loving the state, but it's like, well, why aren't we pushing then to restore the native species? Like what has been here and what is still here, and we could strengthen. And no one really wants to have that conversation in the hunting world that I've found yet. I'm sure there's someone that I need to find, but yeah, it's been interesting.
I think it's you.
I don't know shit enough about any
Prairie
of it.
Chicken Foundation.
I do love those birds though. They're fun to so this last year going out there and training, I didn't realize so they'll usually stick in coveys, especially once it gets colder.
Mm-hmm.
You'll flush like 30 of them. Especially with a flushing dog. He's very good at that, finding them and busting them. But they'll like circle like geese.
Really?
Before they land in a field.
Yeah.
Which was like blew my mind watching these birds. They'll go up in the air and they'll just be like a wave of these prairie chickens, and they'll cyclone over an area before they land, just like geese and like ducks do before they land on you. It was wild. Which
sounds crazy to me, because it's like you talk to bird hunters and they're like, wouldn't you want that opportunity in like a covey of 30? My God. If you're talking like a group of 30, you're talking the truck just dropped them off down around us. Like people wait, and there's like murmurs of like the truck drops off on Thursday, so everybody's like out on Thursday.
Yeah.
And there's like, you always hear like, oh, there's one left running around. Yeah. It's like hiding in the like in a ditch row. It's like, oh my God.
That's exactly how pheasant hunting was for me this year. It was so I put in all this work, like, well, what the hell are they eating? Where are they? Blah 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 blah. Like talking to guys that hunt pheasants out west, and then I realized I'm like, none of that matters.
Nope.
They're just. I'm like they drove out there with the truck. I'm gonna like maybe talk to someone at a trailhead that lives around there. Like, hey, where are the drop points? And then I'm gonna pull up Onyx and be like, where did they get pushed to? Where's the wind today? Where are they gonna fly to with the wind? And then I'm like, I've got a flushing dog.
Oh,
I don't have to worry about them running away from him. He's there.
Or you just pull up into the parking lot, wait for 5 minutes so you hear the first shotgun blast and walk towards it. That's like.
So I was like, this is mostly bird training for him. Like just getting on birds and working different. Like I was all over the state finding different topography to work him in. That was really what pheasant hunting was this year. It wasn't because I was doing all this like, what are they eating? Blah blah blah. I'm like, that doesn't matter. Now, like with prairie chickens, it has like. Learning the prairie, kind of like you look at it, you're like, oh, it's a flat prairie, but really there's all of these different hills, these different drops.
Oh yeah.
The different like what's growing here, what's growing there, and trying to better learn that so we can like work that, figure out where they are, and then hopefully when we do head out west and we're going after sharp tails, or anything like that, we'll have a better grasp of it. Because I talked to flushing guys, like. And they're like, why the hell would you take a flushing dog after those? That'll never work. Blah, blah, you know.
Oh,
there's just.
That's what I mean. That's what again. I get back to that. It's like, why don't you have it side by side?
Yeah.
Over under spaniel.
Like you can't use a spaniel
like
for that.
Mad at like what kind of dog you're hunting with. It's like
So it's the.
In fly fishing, that's the strike indicator bobber argument.
Bryce is like, son of
that. My God, you would be. You'd blow your mind how people can get so riled up over that.
I'm sure.
Well, that's elitist thing too. In all other kinds of fishing, it's called a bobber.
I'll call it a bobber though. I'll fly fish and call it a bobber because I'm done arguing with people.
There you go. I like it. So we've covered our three. Anything you guys want to post in there or share? Add? I think we did a pretty good job.
I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Talked a little bit about prairie chickens. I don't know where that came. That was just a random. I want to do the booming grounds this year and go talk to people who are like prairie chickens are like their jam, because I want to learn more, understand the system more. And then we dabbled a little on fitness. I want to come back to that though. So as participants in Train to Hunt, as judges in Train to Hunt, as outdoor enthusiasts, archers. You appreciate the hunting public. I would definitely say those guys, you need a base level of fitness to do what they're doing. For the two of you, where does fitness fit into your outdoor recreation? So not only hunting, but hiking, biking, camping, fishing. Where does fitness play?
I'll let you start.
Well, like I said, I'm a bicycle mechanic, so I get a lot of my upper body strength from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then basically every other time I'm outside, I'm hiking around. For me, fitness is more movement, and it plays a huge role. I'm always the one that's trying to go the furthest from the road on any public property or get to the farthest fishing hole on a stream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important in the way of, all right, I got done with my work. I'm going to run out to the stream, hike as fast as I can on a hot day to the furthest part where I think there's going to be fish and enjoy the sunset. If I wasn't fit enough to do that, then I'm not going to be able to enjoy my time in the woods as much.
I like it. I'm not done with you yet.
All right.
I'm not done with you yet.
I'm still here.
You thought you got... Oh, no. You mentioned you guys competed in mountain biking, right? Or raced? Did a lot of mountain biking?
I used to race, yeah.
Yeah. So and I've talked to a few other people that did like the mountain biking thing, and they were like, as they got older, they're like, I liked going slower is something I heard for a lot of people.
That's literally why I got out of it.
Yeah, because they're like, I love being outside and I love mountain biking, but you get to a point and they're like, I liked going slower. They're like, you're still hiking your ass off, you're still going fast, but it's way slower than bombing down a trail on a bike.
Don't get me wrong, I fucking love mountain biking.
Yeah.
But, and I mean, I might sound like an old person here, but as I get older, slowing down and enjoying like every step and everything that's around me rather than like everything passing you in a blur.
Yeah.
I just have a new appreciation for it. And it's probably one of those reasons why I like being on the stream. It's the same thing. It's slowly going by you. You're enjoying it, and you can move on at your own pace rather than what the trail dictates, as in mountain biking.
For sure. And then I want to touch on smoking, Bryce. We're gonna have a smoking intervention here.
This wasn't me. I didn't do this.
This is all me. I wanna no, and this is coming. This is judgment-free zone. This is just from someone who loves you.
Yeah.
And how long have you been smoking? If you can, and then why did you start? And what are your thoughts on it now? I want to know. So like, how long? Why'd you start? How long has it been?
It's been a long time. Started because of a girl.
Okay.
Obviously, I think that's
not fair to say. Obviously, what does that mean?
I feel like I've heard that from a lot of people. But yeah. What was the other question?
So it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said because of a girl. What are your thoughts on it now? How old are you? I think we're all
I'm 34.
We're all aware of what smoking cigarettes does to the body.
I hate it.
Okay.
But I mean, like with most things, it's a built-in habit, and I just haven't gotten to the point where I've kicked it yet.
Yeah. We all have vices.
Yep.
I drink too much. I'll admit it right now. Right.
I drink too much too.
Biter.
Yep.
What do you?
Nail bite.
Nail bite. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Django gives me too many weird things that I pick up, so I don't.
Yeah.
I should not bite my nails. So no, I'm genuinely curious, and it's not from a place like, oh, Bryce, this is what you should do. I just, as a friend, I just wanted to know where your headspace was, and I think on the podcast specifically, it's super important because there are other people out there. Like I said, like Zach said, we all have vices, right? We all have things we do that we know potentially aren't the best for us. Longevity-wise, health-wise, but it's good to talk about those things.
Absolutely.
And do you feel like it has affected you in the so like fishing, hiking back, hunting? Do you feel like it's holding you back at all?
I think it obviously does. I grew up like pretty good athlete, and I was on top of my game for a long time until I started smoking. But being that young, I think that I was able to get by with it. But now, like, I can definitely feel like on some of the hikes, I'm like, I shouldn't be this winded or whatever. But yeah, it catches up with you just like anything else.
Cool. All right.
I'm sure I would look way better too if I didn't smoke.
Jacked, yoked. All right, you can pass the mic if you want. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
I'm good.
Sorry for putting you on the spot like that.
Oh, good.
Love you, Bryce.
He needs it.
Zach, fitness, outdoor recreation. What does that look like for you?
I was always Bryce is right. He grew up ice climbing and sailing and was always like a shredded little dude, fast kid. I was the opposite. I was a chubby dude. If I look at a carb, like love handles, start developing. So fitness has kind of always been like, as soon as I got to college and was like out of any like type of sport, I had to do something. Even energy wise, the nail biting is probably a little bit of just because I'm definitely wired to move and keep going, and if I can't sitting still is kind of hard for me. So
that's fair.
It was always either running or going to the gym, just stuff like that, kind of on a weekly basis. Yeah. So it's become a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my wife's life. She has a really stressful job, and the only way she functions as a human is every day she's in the gym at 5:30. So, nice. And it's only done positive things for us.
Is that 5:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Team early as fuck?
Yeah, she is. She's definitely team early as fuck. She's team early to bed too. You have to have that balance, right? So yeah, I mean, fitness for me it's kind of, I don't know if it really plays into the outdoor stuff. It kind of plays in I guess I do a lot of outdoor stuff for work. Like I just like have to be like in somewhat physically okay shape to like climb up and down banks and stand in rivers and stuff like that. So I can't say it plays a whole lot into my outdoor capacities, other than it probably is the underlying reason I'm okay to do it all. Yeah. So I guess I don't really think about it in that. I'm not Cam Hanes, I'll put it that way.
It's all right. Sorry. Did you compete in anything growing up, sport-wise?
The normal things that like I felt forced into as a Wisconsinite. So football. Well, and I was the third biggest guy on the football team. Okay. So I was a center. Yeah. Which is ridiculous.
That is ridiculous.
Which is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah. Going against other like farm school kids is like, oh no. Every week was like, it's going to be a tough one. And I wish I would have been playing soccer with Bryce. Yeah. Honestly, if I could go back in a time machine, I'd change a bunch of stuff. But basketball, didn't really play, but practiced. Football, played, didn't really want to.
You did some off-road triathlons.
Yeah, that's I right when I got into mountain biking right away. Me and my dad were kind of big into like whitewater kayaking for a while. We'd go up to the Wolf a lot and do a little bit of that. So that's how I kind of that's what got me back into doing outdoor stuff, not necessarily hunting, but I got back into like the mountain biking and the whitewater kayaking. I did the Wolfman. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's up in Antigo. It's like a trail run. It's trail run, whitewater kayaking, and mountain biking. And again, that was one of those things that right away when we did it, I was like, the community of people is just like, you're like, oh God, these are my people, right?
It's everything.
So, but a lot of shoulder injuries and stuff that I've just messed up. Your body starts to get older. Really, the fitness thing for me, the increase over the last couple of years is when I had a kid. As soon as I had my daughter, I was like, you just think of things differently. You're like, I want to be able to, like my dad going whitewater kayaking with me. Yeah. I want to be able to do that stuff with her. And he had me at a lot younger age than I had my daughter. I'm not old. I'm 33, but I think about when I'm 50, I want to be able to go do whatever she wants to go do. So, love it. Yeah, and you're constantly picking kids up and carrying everything. How
old's your daughter?
She's 4.
4? Is she I don't remember if I remember going rabbit hunting when I was like 5 or 6, and it was miserable because my dad is like 6'3", long legs, trying to keep up. And he was very much like, oh, you're whining, and then he would say something mean and cruel to a 5 or 6 year old. Not because he meant it as being mean or cruel, but that's just the environment he grew up in. So I remember those being like semi-miserable. Yeah. What is? Do you have a game plan or a philosophy going into exposing her to hunting or the outdoors?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely do. I think about it a lot. people always give you grief right away. They're like, "Oh, you had a daughter. It's a bummer you didn't have a son." And
Isn't that
just
oh my
God,
that people suck.
Yeah, that really kills me. But whatever, if that's people's opinions, yeah. You know, my dad was awesome about it. Because I mean, literally, he had a day job, but he'd come home and he'd run a sporting goods store every night. So like, he lived and breathed everything: bass fishing, trout fishing, any sort of archery hunting, gun hunting. That was his thing. Like, it's my thing now. But he never like forced me into ever doing anything. He would offer the opportunity. Yeah. He would ask me to go, regardless of what my answer was. When I wanted to play in bands and dye my hair black, he let me do it. You know, whatever you wanted to do. When I wanted to come back to it, he helped me get back into it. So I make sure I always give her the opportunity. Right now, 4, I think, is a little young. Right now, we're focusing on the guns issue, because boys at school call them pewers. So she's constantly asking what pewers are. Pew, pew. And I'm like, so the main talk right now is guns aren't toys. We don't play with them as toys. Yeah. Those are important. You can't touch them. If you see one, you don't touch it. Stuff like that. Just to instill those little steps that I think lead you towards being a responsible person around firearms and weapons. Yeah, definitely. But I'm actually blessed right now where we live. We're on like 120 acres, and then on both sides of us we have public land.
Place looks sick.
That boxes us in, and then on top of it I have a trout stream that runs like literally 70 yards behind my garage. So summers are just filled with when we get when we get home, she knows, like, okay, I'll let you go and play on the swing set for a little bit, but then we're going over to the creek, and she'll walk along with me, and she's got a little fishing pole and stuff like that. So, but again, if she wants to go back and play on the playground, I'm not like, oh, jeez. Yeah. No, it's just kind of give and take, because I don't want her to have any of that negative, oh my God, my dad's going to make me go do this. So
I like it, man.
Yeah.
You want to adopt Bryce and I? Like,
well, I often tell people I do have 2 children. One's just a year older than me.
I love it. We're quickly approaching an hour here, so I wanted to finish with, we're going to go back a little bit, because you kind of touched on it too with spinning rods, Bryce, how you get to a point and guys were, I shouldn't say guys, but fishing people were more like, well, it's just a numbers thing. Looking at the idea of, and I've had a conversation about it with other people on the podcast, but hunting or fishing, outdoor recreation, like the competitive side of human nature, what it does to hunting, to fishing. You know, I was just at a Ducks Unlimited banquet this last week, and the table I was at, it was, well, everyone hates the DNR. Because that's the common one. And I was like, do you actually know anyone that works for the DNR? And then the other one was, it was all just about bucks, you know, rack size and all the shit. I'm just like, hand in my head, shaking my head. It's just like, that's not at all what I want to talk about or care to talk about. So I was just curious what your guys' thoughts are on all of that.
Well, I think some competition is healthy.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, like Zach brought up, there's like a little fight about every little aspect of whatever discipline you choose to be a part of. I think at the end of the day, everybody should be in competition for how much time they spend outside, or like the quality of time that they spend outside. Yeah. I don't think, like, I mean, you have people that shoot 6 doe a year, but they're not as cool as the person that shoots the 110 pointer every 3 years. You know, like, that doesn't make sense to me. So I think it's quality of time and amount of time out in the woods, I think, should be the real competition.
I like that. And I'm not saying, you know, if your thing is big bucks, great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. But I just like having a more in-depth conversation. And unfortunately, I go to some conservation events or hunting events, and I'm like, oh, this is what we have to talk about. Like, people bitching about the DNR.
Right.
They haven't been to the conservation meetings. They don't actually talk to anyone in the DNR.
Right.
It's just them thinking, like, how can I bend or break the regulations, and then bitch about the DNR.
I think everybody, that community has decided that the DNR is the common enemy, which is absurd. But unfortunately, that's the case right now.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Anyways, so Zach, what do you got? What are you thinking? What are your thoughts in this last?
Those are your armchair quarterbacks.
Yes,
right?
for sure.
I mean, we've learned that with BHA a lot because, you get involved with conservation committees and stuff like that. Those people like to sit on the sidelines and throw things. But if you want to be involved, there's a place for you. You can come to those meetings and you can stand up and you can talk in front of somebody. So it's there. And point number 2, big bucks are cool.
Yeah, they are.
They're awesome.
Big bucks look damn cool.
We love them, but yeah, they have their place. So, but the main thing I thought of is that's the one thing I think you'll find anybody who's interested in with BHA is it seems that those conversations don't usually come up. There's people, we get in arguments about gear, right?
A lot of gearheads.
A lot of gearheads. I will say that, which is a fun thing to do because everybody can leave without fisticuffs.
Yep.
But man, it's just a lot of people talking about having fun outside in so many different formats.
Yeah.
So anybody who's interested should definitely check us out.
Yes, I'll have a link here, and then I gotta post the Becoming an Outdoorswoman event because I'll be there, and I'm gonna share it amongst the both BHA and non-BHA groups. So if there's someone not in BHA that wants to learn more about it, I'll be there to talk. And then for people that are in BHA, they can get more involved with Becoming an Outdoorswoman and the mentorship program that's going on in this area.
For sure. Perfect. Yeah, a big part of our R3 has been the introduction of like the women-specific things. We want to make sure that's available because it just makes you feel a lot more comfortable than walking into a room of bearded dudes. Yeah. Trust me. Right?
Bryce is like, what?
Not that this mustache isn't creepy.
Yeah, right? I was gonna say the mustache isn't.
So you had Liz on the podcast.
Yeah.
So she's been doing a fantastic job with that, and we're only going to do more stuff.
She's a badass.
Yeah, she is a badass.
So I guess last thing we'll conclude with concluding thoughts, aka concluders. If you listen to the Mediator podcast, I really enjoy those. And then favorite beer. Let's end on a.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, right. It's gonna be a tough one.
Wow. So my concluder is just going to be. Anybody who doesn't know what BHA is, check it out. Check out the website. Check out our Instagram. We're still young. We're still figuring this stuff out. We're growing very quickly. If you are a BHA member and you're interested in and want to help out more, reach out to us in any format. We'll find a spot for you. This isn't a boys club. We want everybody to be involved. There's room for everybody. And we need everybody's help too. We can only make this thing better as a group. So if you're interested in doing anything, hit us up. Now, it might take us a while to get back. We all have day jobs. We are 100% volunteers. This is all on the side, but please, we want you to be a part of us and hang out with us. Favorite beer? Golly.
You better say one of Tracy's beers.
Oh, my sister-in-law owns a brewery. Shit. She's definitely not going to listen to this, though. She's a vegan. I do love her beers, but if I had to, depends on time of day. No, if I had to pick one, I'm going Two Hearted.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's
It's got a good logo.
Yeah, I'm going Two Hearted. Bells.
I'm just going to expand on what Zach said. We're an awesome group. We're not species specific, so we're really here for everybody, even if you're not a hunter or a fisher person. And put your money where your mouth is. Come join us and get your hands dirty and either use your voice to contact your representative or volunteer for a work day, and let's do something great for everybody else.
Damn.
And I'm going to go off and say bourbon.
Oh
Shit. Classic Bryce. He's like, I heard your question. Fuck off. Here's my answer. I love it. Thanks, dudes, for coming on.
Thank you.
Appreciate you making the drive up and getting to hang out with you guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us and introducing us to a cool coffee place.
Ruby Coffee. Shout out.